Hi, I'm Melissa Moore-Salvati, Director of U.S. Language Services. I've been working in the translation industry in various capacities, from translator to reviser to project manager, for over 15 years, and I have experience working with clients in both the U.S. and Europe. Since 2018, U.S. Language Services has provided translation services to thousands of clients from all industries, from government agencies to law firms to individuals. Continuing with our series on licensed professions, in this video, I'm going to go over the process of getting licensed as a foreign-trained midwife in the U.S. If you're a midwife planning to immigrate to the U.S., you'll need a license to continue your career. Although you may be illegally allowed to work, getting licensed as a midwife can be a long process. The journey to getting licensed can be challenging and may even tempt you to consider jobs outside the field of midwifery. However, it's important to know that validating your foreign credentials is possible. In fact, in the U.S., there are 3 different ways to practice midwifery and continue doing what you love while earning a good income. To help make the process of getting your midwifery license smoother, we'll guide you through the steps to start your career as a midwife in the U.S. As we go through the video, we'll be referring to web pages, mobile apps, licensing boards, and other online resources. So we'll include links to the information in the video's description below. Okay, let's get started. You may be asking yourself why you should get your midwifery license in the United States. When you first became a midwife, it was probably because you wanted to help bring new life into the world and support women through one of life's most profound experiences. No matter what your motivations were, it turns out that midwives can earn a good living depending on what state they work in. According to Indeed.com, the national average salary for midwives is over $100,000 a year. While in many cases working as a midwife means directly assisting in births, there are plenty of other job opportunities your career path could open up in the U.S. Midwives can find jobs working in hospitals, birthing centers, clinics, or as educators. So even if you want to take your career in another direction, getting licensed to work in the U.S. will allow you to earn an above-average salary while building on the career you initially embarked on. In the United States, there are 3 main types of midwives with 3 different credentials: Certified Nurse Midwife, or CNM, Certified Midwife, or CM, and Certified Professional Midwife, or CPM. There are differences between each type of midwife in terms of the education they require, what settings and states they can practice in, and which medical procedures they can perform. For a detailed look at the differences between these 3 types of midwifery credentials, the American College of Nurse Midwives has created a side-by-side chart that's helpful for folks who need a visual aid. But let's go over the main points. CNMs and CMs are the most alike in education requirements and scope of practice. Both are required to complete a graduate-level midwifery education program accredited by the Accreditation Commission of Midwifery Education and must pass a national certification exam administered by the American Midwifery Certification Board. CMs and CNMs are trained to provide a full range of primary health care services to women from adolescence through menopause. This includes general health visits, gynecological checkups, family planning services, treatment of STDs, and neonatal care. Both can work in various settings, such as hospitals, health clinics, OBGYN practices, birth centers, and private homes. However, there are some important differences between certified nurse midwives and certified midwives. Most importantly, CNMs must first become registered nurses before also completing a graduate-level nurse midwifery program accredited by ACME. Additionally, CNMs are recognized and able to work in all 50 states. In contrast, CMs do not require a nurse background and instead enter midwifery directly through an ACME accredited program. However, a limited number of states recognize the CM credential, specifically Arkansas, Colorado, Delaware, Hawaii, Maine, Maryland, New Jersey, New York, Oklahoma, Rhode Island, Virginia, and the District of Columbia. While both CNMs and CMs provide a full range of primary healthcare services, CNMs have broader recognition and integration into the healthcare system. Certified professional midwives are different from CMs and CNMs in many ways. Most significantly, CPMs are not required to be registered nurses and do not need a graduate level education. However, CPMs will need to prove extensive clinical experience. In terms of practice, CPMs focus almost exclusively on providing midwifery care in out-of-hospital settings such as home births and private birthing centers. CPMs are certified by a different organization known as the North American Registry of Midwives, and after completing their apprenticeship, CPMs will take the NARM examination. CPMs are recognized in 36 states as of 2023. You can check out a map created by the National Association of Professional Midwives for a list of those states. It's important to note that many states use the title Licensed Midwife, or LM, as a title of midwives who are legally authorized to practice. This title can apply to all 3 types of midwives depending on the state's regulations. While each state may have its own way of using this title, obtaining certification as a CNM, CM, or CPM is generally required before applying for state licensure. Now let's take a closer look at the organization who will grant you your midwifery license. As mentioned before, CNMs and CMs must both take a national exam administered by the American Midwifery Certification Board. Similarly, CPMs are required to take a national exam administered by the North American Registry of Midwives. Though midwives are supported by national organizations, they will ultimately receive their licenses from a state board. As I mentioned earlier, each state has very specific rules regarding what certifications you'll need to practice midwifery. So the best thing you can do is thoroughly research the particular state you want to practice in to find that state's licensing board. Let's look at New Jersey as an example because it's one of the few states that allows all three types of midwives to practice. The New Jersey Division of Consumer Affairs is the organization which grants licenses to all three types of midwives. On their webpage, under applications and forms, you'll see that CNMs, CMs, and CPMs all have their own applications. Virginia, which also recognizes all three types of midwives, takes a different approach. There, if you're a certified midwife or certified professional midwife, you'll seek licensing from the Virginia Board of Medicine. Meanwhile, certified nurse midwives are technically nurses, so they'll apply for a license through the Virginia Board of Nursing. Both organizations are subsections of the Virginia Department of Health Professions, but have different board members and contact information. As you can see, New Jersey and Virginia handle their licensing differently, and you'll probably see lots of variations from state to state. So the most important thing is to be thorough in your research, and if you're in doubt, be sure to email or call your state licensing board. Next, let's go over some methods and tips to contacting your state's midwifery board. First, a quick Google search should turn up the phone number, mailing address, and email of the midwifery licensing board in the state where you want to work. However, pay close attention because as we saw with New Jersey and Virginia, some states have separate licensing boards for each type of midwife, while others have a combined board. Now for some tips for emailing your state's midwifery licensing board. If English isn't your first language, consider composing your email or letter in your native language and then having it translated. If you decide to go this route, we can provide you with professional translations to ensure your email clearly lays out your questions so you get the right answers. When drafting your email, be sure to include all relevant information. You'll need to provide your full name, phone number, regular address, and email address to make it as easy as possible for the licensing board to respond to you. If you decide to call the licensing board, be mindful of the board's office hours. Licensing boards are usually open from 9 to 5 p.m., Monday through Friday, and remember, the U.S. has various time zones, so make sure to take that into account when contacting them. Now let's dive into more specific information about the process of becoming a midwife. What is important to keep in mind here is that there are different education requirements for each of the three types of midwife. We'll touch on all three to give you a sense of the differences. To become a certified nurse midwife, for example, the journey begins with obtaining a Bachelor of Science in Nursing, or BSN. After earning a BSN, you'll have to take the National Council Licensure Examination for registered nurses, which is typically referred to as the NCLEX. Once you pass the NCLEX, you'll be a registered nurse. For more information on becoming a registered nurse, you can check out our video about how to work as a foreign trained nurse in the US linked in the description. Back to becoming a CNM. After passing the NCLEX, an aspiring CNM must complete a graduate level program in nurse midwifery. This degree can either be a Master of Science in Nursing or a Doctor of Nursing Practice. No matter what your degree must be accredited by the Accreditation Commission for Midwifery Education. Luckily, ACME provides a comprehensive list of each program they accept on their website. Finally, to practice as a certified nurse midwife, the candidate must pass the national certification exam administered by the American Midwifery Certification Board and obtain state licensure. Be aware that state licensure may require additional state-specific exams or criteria. To become a certified midwife, or CM on the other hand, you'll basically follow the same steps as a CNM, but without the nursing requirements. So you need either a Master of Science in Nursing or a Doctor of Nursing Practice that's accredited by ACME. Then you'll need to pass the AMCB exam and any state-specific exams. Lastly, to become a certified professional midwife, there are multiple avenues of education and experience open to you. The first avenue could be particularly appealing if you're a midwife from abroad. That is NARM's Portfolio Evaluation Process, which they abbreviate as PEP. The PEP is an alternative pathway for becoming a CPM. This program allows aspiring midwives to demonstrate their competency through portfolio-based evaluation instead of completing a formal midwifery education program. To begin the PEP, you must have a high school diploma or equivalent. Then you need to partner with a preceptor who basically acts as a mentor and teacher. The preceptor's role is to oversee a midwife in training, ensuring they gain the necessary knowledge by being present during care and signing the required NARM forms. A preceptor must be registered with NARM, have at least 3 years of experience, and have attended 50 births after receiving their CPM credential. Additionally, 10 of these births need to have been out-of-hospital births and to have happened in the last 3 years. Once you've found your preceptor, you can begin your PEP journey, which spans a minimum of 2 years and must be completed within 10 years. The process unfolds in 4 phases. In phase 1, you'll attend 10 births in any capacity. Phase 2 involves documenting 20 births, 25 prenatal exams, 20 newborn exams, and 10 postpartum visits as an assistant under supervision. Phase 3 steps up your involvement. You'll document 20 births, 75 prenatal exams, 20 newborn exams, and 40 postpartum exams as a primary midwife under supervision. This includes 5 births with full continuity of care, which simply means the same midwife or midwifery team provides consistent care throughout a woman's pregnancy, birth, and postpartum period. You also must prove you attended 10 births where you provided prenatal care, monitoring the mother's health before birth. Completing these phases allows you to register for the NARM examination. Finally, phase 4 involves documenting 5 additional burrs as a primary midwife under supervision, which can be done before or after the NARM examination. The second pathway to become a CPM is graduating from a program accredited by the Midwifery Education Accreditation Council. To begin, you'll need a high school diploma or the equivalent. Beyond that, you'll need to provide proof that you've attended 2 hospital births and 5 home births. You'll also need to show that you've worked in the U.S. as a primary midwife or the primary midwife under supervision for at least 10 out-of-hospital births in the last 3 years. You'll then need to send a notarized document like a final transcript, graduation certificate, or letter from the MEAC program confirming you've met all graduation requirements. If your school sends official documents directly to NARM, they don't need to be notarized. You'll then need to pass the NARM examination. The third pathway to become a CPM is if you are already certified by the AMCB as a CNM or CM. And in order to do this, you'll have to send a copy of your current CNM or CM certificate. Then you'll have to provide documentation to prove you've served as a primary midwife or primary midwife under supervision for at least 10 births in out-of-hospital settings. Also, you need to document at least 5 births with continuity of care, providing at least 5 prenatal visits, attending the birth, conducting a newborn exam, and 2 postpartum exams. Once your application is approved, NARM will schedule your exam. After passing the NARM examination and after meeting all the requirements, you'll receive your Certified Professional Midwife certification. You can only use a CPM title once you've been officially certified by NARM. Depending on which avenue you pursue, you may need to have your credentials evaluated by a professional service. Credential evaluation services assess the academic and professional qualifications of individuals from other countries. They then convert them into a format that is recognized and understood within the U.S. education and employment sectors. Lastly, they prepare a report that details how your foreign grades, degrees, and qualifications compare to those in the U.S. This helps universities, state midwifery boards, and nursing boards understand your qualifications. For example, if you hold a degree in biology, nursing, or midwifery from another country, you might be able to have some academic credits transferred to a U.S. college or university. Becoming a CNM or a CM requires a degree from an ACME-accredited university in the United States. However, some colleges or universities might recognize basic coursework such as microbiology, nutrition, or others. Similarly, if you are pursuing a CNM license and you are already a registered nurse in a foreign country, you could potentially have your credentials verified in the U.S. The preferred credential evaluation service for nurses in the United States is the Commission on Graduates of Foreign Nursing Schools. By the way, if you're a nurse working abroad, you might want to check out our video for foreign nurses who want to get started working in the U.S. Even midwives who want to become a CPM in the U.S. may potentially use a credential evaluation service to show that they have the equivalent of a high school diploma. Credential evaluation services offer different levels of evaluations. A basic service, often called a general evaluation or course-by-course evaluation, might cost between $70 and $200. A more comprehensive evaluation, which gathers additional information, could cost between $150 and $500. The processing time for credential evaluations can range from a few days to 4 weeks, but most evaluation companies offer expedited service for an added fee. To perform the credential evaluation, these companies will need your transcripts, mark sheets, certificates, or diplomas, and any other relevant material. In order to process your credentials evaluation services, we'll need certified English translations of any foreign documents you include. The best way to make sure these translations are accurate is to have them completed by a professional translation service. So let's talk about certified translations. It's important to understand that even if you are fluent in English, you are not permitted to translate your own documents. In most cases, evaluation agencies will provide you with various options depending on whether you're going to have your documents translated in the US or abroad. So be sure to check with the evaluation agency because they may have certain requirements. Some evaluation agencies may offer translation services for a fee. However, since U.S. Language Services specializes in translation, our rates are usually much more competitive and can be as much as 50% less than what evaluation agencies charge. Also, if the agency or the board needs the translations to be sent directly to them, we're happy to do so. So what does a certified translation do? First, it's important to understand what a certified translation does not do. Certified translations do not indicate the direct correspondence between a degree obtained abroad and its equivalent in the U.S. Additionally, certified translations do not change the value of a mark obtained. For example, if you earned a 10 in a subject in a country where subjects are numerically evaluated from 1 to 10, your certified translation will indicate that you earned a 10, not an A+. Certified translations do convert your documentation into English, allowing the evaluation agency or licensing board to review your academic and professional accreditations. While you're getting your documents translated for your credential evaluation, you may also want to have any letters of recommendation or certificates of work experience translated for future job applications. To obtain a certified translation from U.S. Language Services, you can place an order through our website or request a quote. You can simply send us scanned versions of your documents or even photographs. It's not necessary to send the physical documents. You can find the corresponding links in the description. Now let's discuss how to demonstrate your level of English proficiency. You might be curious about the importance of your English skills as a midwife. If you're aspiring to start a career as a midwife in the US, strong English skills are essential for both your education and work. For starters, you most likely need to take some university courses and then pass your NARM examination. After you've started working, you will regularly communicate with expectant mothers to explain prenatal care, guide them through the birthing process, and follow up with them and their newborn. Proficient English will also allow you to communicate with your colleagues, continue your education, and maintain your license. Two of the most widely recognized exams to demonstrate English abilities are the Test of English as a Foreign Language, which is abbreviated as TOEFL, and the International English Language Testing System, or the IELTS. Both exams can help you prove your English skills and assist in getting hired at a hospital or birth center after you obtain your license. It's now time to go over the two different national exams for midwives. First, we'll cover the AMCB exam for CNMs and CMs, and then we'll go over the NARM examination for CPMs. If you want to become a CNM or a CM, you'll take the AMCB exam. To be eligible to take this exam, you must already have a master's or doctoral degree from a U.S. midwifery program that is accredited by the Accreditation Commission for Midwifery Education. The American Midwifery Certification Board exam consists of 175 multiple choice questions, each with 4 possible answers. Candidates will be given 4 hours to complete the exam, and during that time, test takers are allowed to review or change any questions they've already answered. There are no points deducted from your score for incorrect answers, so candidates are encouraged to answer every question, even if they're unsure. The exam content is divided into 6 parts, with each section representing a percentage of the total exam. The parts and their respective percentages are as follows: antepartum, which is 21%, intrapartum, which is 21%, postpartum, 18%, newborn, 10%, gynecology, 19%, and primary care, which is 11%. The questions are administered in a random order rather than being grouped together by content area. The content areas and percentages covered by the exam are based on a comprehensive survey given to practicing midwives to determine what their hands-on work is like. So you can be sure that the testing material is relevant to real-life experience. When you finish your exam, you'll get an official score report at the testing center on the same day. If you pass the exam, your report will include a message letting you know you've passed. If you don't pass, you'll get a scaled score showing how you performed on the exam overall. You'll also receive raw scores, which tell you the number of questions you answered correctly in each of the 6 content areas of the exam and which areas you need to improve. To pass the exam, candidates will need a score of 75 or higher out of 100. It's important to note that each candidate's score will be calculated as a scaled score rather than a raw percentage of correct answers. The raw score is converted to a scaled score because each person taking the exam gets a slightly different set of questions. Since there are differences between the exams, the conversion makes sure that everyone's score is fair. The important thing to remember is that you need at least a score of 75 to pass. The fee to take the exam is $500, and this includes a $120 processing fee, which you'll lose if you reschedule less than 2 business days before your appointment. Candidates who are more than 15 minutes late, miss their appointments, or lack the proper ID will also lose the processing fee and need to reschedule. If a candidate does not pass the exam on their first attempt, the fee to retake the exam is $350. Candidates are allowed to retake the exam a maximum of 3 times after their first attempt. The exam fees can be paid using a credit card if you're applying online. To do so, you'll need to create an account with the MCB using their online portal by following the provided link and clicking on New Applicant. You can also pay by check if you send in a paper application by including the check in the same envelope as your application. We'll provide a link to the printable PDF version of both the CM and CNM applications. When you complete the application, you can mail it to the American Midwifery Certification Board. If you're applying to take the CNM exam, you need to include a copy of your registered nurse license along with your exam application. After receiving and processing your application, the AMCB will notify you by email if you're eligible to take the exam. If you prefer to be notified in writing or by phone, you'll need to inform the AMCB office when submitting your application. The AMCB posts an updated public list of people who have passed the exam on their website. New names are added within 30 days after score reports are emailed or mailed. Please note that the online list is not considered a primary source verification. However, the AMCB will provide an extra verified copy of your certificate. By default, the AMCB will mail your certification and your one free verification to the address indicated on the examination application form within 8 weeks. But if you would prefer to have your copy sent to a different organization, such as the state licensing board, you'll need to indicate on your examination application which address you would like the verification to be sent to. If you need an additional copy of the certificate, you can request them using the AMCB website. You'll need to log into the website's user portal and click the link Purchase Verification Letters. There's a $50 fee for this service, which is payable by personal check or credit card. As you're preparing to take the AMCB exam, you might look online for a study group or study guide. Unfortunately, there aren't many resources available, and this is probably because the AMCB's website explicitly says they do not endorse any review courses or books. The AMCB exam handbook goes further to say that the questions on the exam are not based on one specific reference. Page 18 and 19 of the handbook list 24 resources which the AMCB specifically suggests are study materials for the exam. As I mentioned earlier, the questions on the exam are based on a survey given to practicing midwives. The results of that survey are quantified and published every few years in what they call a task analysis report. So a great way to study for the exam is by carefully reviewing the AMCB's most recent task analysis report. Beginning on page 33 of the 2022 copy of the task analysis report, you can see detailed percentages, charts, and explanations of medical conditions and practices experienced by midwives in the field. Because this survey is used to create the exam, it's a great place to begin if you're wondering precisely what material to freshen up on. Although the MCB does not endorse any study materials, there is a book called Midwifery and Women's Health Nurse Practitioner Certification Review Guide, which has a rating of 4.8 out of 5 on Amazon. The book claims to be based on the AMCB exam, and the most recent edition was published in 2021. However, the authors plan to release an updated version in December 2024. You can find both used in new copies of the book online, as well as a Kindle version if you want to start studying right away. If you're searching for a structured online study guide, you can check out boardvitals.com. The website offers access to more than 350 practice questions, which they claim were written by certified midwives who've already passed the exam. Boardvitals.com provides access to their study materials based on periods of time. Access for 6 months costs $159, 3 months $109, and 1 month $89. There are no specific reviews regarding the MCU exam study resources. However, in general, the website has a good reputation for helping other medical professionals like nurses and psychologists pass their national exams, so it could be a valuable resource. Board Vitals also offers an Android and iPhone mobile app, allowing you to access your study materials from your phone at any time. A similar online resource called Pocket Prep offers study materials for a subscription of $15 to $20 a month. It's difficult to find reviews specifically regarding Pocket Prep's AMCB exam resources, but in general, the website has thousands of 5-star reviews from medical professionals across various fields. Pocket Prep also offers Android and iPhone mobile apps and claims to be designed for busy people. The app offers multiple types of quizzes like the weekest subject quiz and the question of the day, so it could be great for folks with limited time. Another possible resource could be the subreddit Our Midwives, which has more than 17,000 members. Though the group isn't focused specifically on the AMCB exam, people post in the group every day and receive multiple responses. There's most likely a large number of people in that group who've taken the AMCB exam, so it might be a great starting point. Moving on to the NARM examination. As I mentioned earlier, if you plan on becoming a CPM, you'll have to pass this exam. NARM has partnered with a company called ProvExam to administer the test. So, after you've been approved by NARM, you'll communicate with ProvExam to schedule where and when you take the exam. One possible option is to take the exam on a computer at one of ProvExam's testing centers. Or, for a more convenient option, candidates can choose to take the test from their own computer. What you'll need is a Wi-Fi connection along with a computer that has a functioning camera and a microphone. On the day of your exam, you'll log into ProvExam's online portal where a live remote proctor will monitor you as you take the exam. The exam consists of 300 multiple choice questions, each with 4 possible answers. The exam is divided into 2 parts and candidates will have 3 hours to complete each part. The contents of the exam are divided into 7 areas: professional issues, knowledge and skills, general healthcare skills, maternal health assessment, prenatal, labor, birth, and immediate postpartum, and well baby care. The raw score needed to pass the exam can vary slightly depending on the version of the exam. Typically, the minimum raw score needed to pass ranges between 79 and 81%. However, everyone's results are reported as a scaled score where 75 or above is required to pass. All exam results will be reported as either pass or fail. Candidates will get an email with their unofficial scores from ProvExam within 3 business days. If you pass, you won't see a detailed breakdown of your scores. If you don't pass, you'll get a report showing how you did in the main areas of the exam. Official scores will usually be sent by NARM within 2 to 3 weeks after the exam date. The cost to take the exam is $200, and you can pay using a money order or cashier's check payable to the North American Registry of Midwives. Or if you prefer to pay with a credit card, you'll receive an invoice by email with a direct link for credit or debit card payment after your application has been received. Candidates who cancel or reschedule with a notice period of 5 to 29 days must pay a $55 rescheduling fee. If a candidate reschedules or cancels within 5 days or fails to show up at the testing site, they must pay a $210 rescheduling fee. When you're ready to begin studying, one of the best resources to get started with is the CPM Candidate Information Booklet, which is a 75-page online PDF. Pages 35 through 46 provide an in-depth outline of the 7 content areas mentioned earlier. There you'll find a detailed breakdown of medical conditions and terminology you need to study before taking the exam. Another great study resource is a deck of 600 free practice questions on brainscape.com. The questions are broken down into the exam's 7 content areas and are designed to reflect the style of the actual exam questions. Each question comes with 4 possible answers, with the correct answer indicated in a column to the right. For a more structured review course, you can check out the NARM exam prep at gomidwife.com. The website and exam prep was created by a CPM named Amy Kerbeau, and one of the coolest things about the site is that you can email her directly. The exam prep is also quite affordable at $50 for 1 month or $75 for 3 months of access to online study materials. The review includes over 1,000 questions, scenarios, definitions, tips, and tricks designed to help candidates pass the exam on their first attempt. On the other hand, if you're looking for other aspiring midwives to talk to, you can check out some online groups. For starters, there's a Facebook group called NARM CPM Exam Study Group, which has over 2,000 members and regular monthly activity. All right, now that we've covered the 2 national exams, let's focus on the exams required in some of the most popular states among people moving to the U.S. For each state, we'll take a look at which types of midwives can get licensed and the specific state exams or requirements to keep in mind. In California, CPMs and CNMs are allowed to practice midwifery. CPMs will only need to pass the NARM examination and apply through the Medical Board of California. On the other hand, CNMs in California will obtain their license through the California Board of Registered Nursing and need to pass the NCLEX. In Florida, CNMs are allowed to practice as advanced practice nurses, meaning they'll need to pass the NCLEX. For CPMs, the situation is unclear because the National Association of Certified Professional Midwives website lists Florida as a state where they can practice. However, the Florida Health Department website says that the CPM credential is not enough to practice in Florida. As always, the best thing to do if you're unsure is to contact the Florida Health Department for current information. As for Illinois, CNMs will need to pass the NCLEX to become registered nurses and practice midwifery. When it comes to CPMs, state licensure in Illinois is still in the process of changing. In 2021, the state passed the Licensed Certified Professional Midwifery Practice Act, but CPMs are not permitted to begin practicing just yet. The Illinois Council of Certified Professional Midwives estimates that sometime between 2024 and 2025, CPMs will be allowed to practice. So CPMs may want to contact them for updated information. Massachusetts remains fairly strict about who can be licensed. As of 2024, only CNMs are legally allowed to practice midwifery, which means hopeful midwives will have to pass the NCLEX. Unlike Massachusetts, New Jersey grants licenses for all 3 types of midwives. For CMs and CPMs, there are no additional state exams. But if you want to practice as a CNM, you'll have to first pass the NCLEX to become a registered nurse. New York State grants licenses to CNMs and CMs, and there are no additional state exams. But CNMs will need to pass the NCLEX to first become registered nurses. Lastly, Texas allows CNMs and CPMs to obtain licenses, and CPMs will be required to take the Texas Midwives Jurisprudence exam, which has a fee of $34. Like all the states we've mentioned, CNMs in Texas will need to pass the NCLEX to become a registered nurse. They will then also need to pass the Texas Nursing Jurisprudence exam, which has an associated fee of $25. Luckily, the exam is only 50 questions, and the Texas Board of Nursing has created an online prep course. After receiving your license, you'll need to maintain it so you can continue working as a midwife. In California, renewing a CPM license costs $300 and requires 36 hours of approved continuing education every 2 years. As for CNMs, they'll need 30 hours of continuing education every 2 years, and the fee to renew your license will be $150. In Florida, CNMs need 24 hours of continuing education every 2 years, and the renewal fee is $75. Illinois requires CNMs to complete 80 hours of continuing education every 2 years, with a renewal fee of $80. In Massachusetts, CNMs must complete 15 hours of continuing education every 2 years, and the renewal fee is $180. New Jersey's renewal fee for CNMs is $160 with a requirement of 30 hours of continuing education every 2 years. As for CMs and CPMs, they will also need to renew their license every 2 years, and the fee is $270. Similarly, CMs and CPMs will also need 30 hours of continuing education credits within that 2-year licensing period. Interestingly enough, in New York, a midwifery license is valid for life, and the initial cost is $322. It's worth noting that according to the New York State Office of Professions, certified midwives and certified nurse midwives are identical in their ability to practice. Likewise, registered nurses who become midwives are not obligated to maintain their status as registered nurses. Plus, midwives will not be required to complete any continuing education in New York to maintain their licenses. This could be an exciting opportunity considering that New York is one of the most popular states for immigrants. However, it's good to keep in mind that a background in nursing might increase your chances of gaining employment. If you want to maintain your registered nurse license in New York, you need to pay at least a $73 renewal fee every 3 years. But the renewal fee could be more expensive depending on exactly which type of nursing license you have. Similarly, the continuing education courses and credits are different for each type of nurse in New York, but you'll likely need to take courses such as infection control, child abuse reporting, or pain management every 3 years. Finally, in Texas, the renewal fee is $390 for CPMs, and they must complete 20 hours of continuing education every 2 years. As for CNMs, they will also need 20 hours of continuing education for every 2-year licensing period, and the fee to renew a license is $129. Okay, so that covers some of the most popular states for people relocating to the US from abroad, but these are just a few examples of the requirements you might encounter. While each state has its unique regulations, you now have a solid starting point to navigate your journey, whether you're aiming to become a CNM, CM, or CPM. As you embark on this journey, remember that you're not just moving to a new country, you're bringing your valuable skills to a place where they are increasingly needed. The landscape for midwives is changing rapidly, with new laws and legislation increasingly recognizing the vital role that different types of midwives play in healthcare. And this means there are growing opportunities for you to make a difference. Regardless of the path you choose, one thing is certain: relocating to the United States often requires official English translations of your important documents. Whether it's for a visa application or providing college transcripts to a licensing board, having certified translation is crucial. Just reach out to us and we'll be sure to get you the translations you need. And although the process may seem overwhelming, remember that once you receive your license, you will be able to utilize your hard-earned skills and training in your chosen profession. Thank you, and see you in the next video.